Gosh, just keep shining bright, really dialing in and evolving. We are always growing, we are always evolving. Don't stand still, keep moving faithfully forward through life.
All right, Nancy, so good to see you. Thank you for doing this. This is absolutely wonderful for you to be here today. So, I don't know if you've seen any of the previous episodes, but what I really try to do with these podcast episodes is to showcase to others who my guests are, what they do, and how they can help them. So, let's get right into with that first question. Who are you?
Sure.
Yeah, who are you?
Who am I? Well, so I basically Awaken with Light, my business. I formed about 2008, 2009 off of a personal journey of truly awakening my own inner light. So what does that mean? Means fine. I had what they would define as burnout at the age of like 34, 35, creating a multi seven-figure insurance agency with multiple locations. And all they wanted to do was hand me a cut. Quills and beret, sure, I'm not knocking that, but I thought there's got to be more to life than just putting a band-aid over it. What's really causing me to feel out of sync? I wanted to be everything to everyone. I was a perfectionist. I was a high achiever. Uh, I wanted to be what was expected of me in society, what was expected of me in my community, what was expected of me at home. And then I had expectations for myself. That's a tall order. It'd be almost like walking on water, right? So what I realized is that I needed to really find out who Nancy was, what really lights her fire, what really, cut out all the unnecessary clutter and focus on what truly matters to Nancy. And so I created and trademarked my Pathway to Inner Peace featuring the 4R method, which is my primary product that helps both organizations and professionals really figure out what that is for them. And that's basically it in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. I see so many similarities already in your story and in mine. The burnout, the trying to figure out who am I, right? So I
Right.
want to go back and a little bit to that in the beginning. So you were in the insurance business. What got you into that in the
Yes.
first place? How did you get into that world? And as a result of that, what led to your burnout then at the end of it?
Yeah. Well, what's neat is when you do this reflective work and you start really looking at yourself, you realize there's a common thread of things that do draw you to those professions. So, for instance, you say insurance. So, I went to college for industrial operations management with a minor in industrial engineering, and my focus was safety engineering, building safety programs. And my first job, I thought I wanted to work in like a manufacturing plant or something like that. Could not land one of those. I think, again, I'm a product of this time frame where there was several women in my graduating class that all were in this field. And we had a difficult time landing jobs right out of school. So uh, I worked with a headhunter, pivoted. They said, let's create a resume that knocks off some of your uh, things that are girl related. And I landed my first job. I mean, I hate that that's a loaded bunch of stuff there. It really did set me on a trajectory. And there's a whole backstory there. But um, that I took my first job inspecting fleets of trucks, buses, and limousines to see if they were good a risk to insure for an insurance company, Progressive in particular. And then I got assigned to a territory. So what I started noticing is I immediately was in a role of training others on how to create safety and following and making sure it was implemented. And then that led to, moving up and in, just time and wanting and getting the itch of doing something new. I took my all these series of tests, and they found out I was good at sales. So I got transferred and moved up to Connecticut and created, um, $1 million agencies for them along the Gold Coast of Connecticut. And that's how I got my taste of running or building profitable insurance agencies and then got engaged and transferred. My husband got transferred, husband to be, to the Philadelphia area. And they had that agency they wanted to bring into profitability. Once I developed a program for them, they decided they were going to sell it. I bought it, and that's how I got into the agency business. And then what happens is that overachiever, that high striver. So when I bought it, it was like 350,000 in written premium. When I sold it, coming out, sold it 10 years later to Univest at 5.5 million written premium. So it's, yeah, so that's, you can see the pattern there. It's a person who's driven it. It's all about the balance, right? I never, my drive is what's gotten me success, even creating something out of nothing in my coaching business and now have a thriving coaching practice. But you have to be in awareness of the balance and when to take time for self, when to take time for self, self-care, self-love, all these words. And I actually have a chuckle with Nancy all the time because it's not like you're going to check that girl at she's not going to show up. She's going to show up. And then you're going to be like, how does that feel in my body? Does it feel like it's the right choice right now? Or are you going to push yourself from an empty vessel? So, I think that answers your question a little bit.
Yeah, and yeah, it does, and I agree with you that it's that alignment of values that drives a lot, or misalignment with values really is what drives a lot of the
Yes.
burnout that we see across industries. I mean, I come from the healthcare field, and there's a significant amount of burnout in the healthcare industry. And a lot of it, I think, does stem from that misalignment of values. The healthcare systems are driven by profit, whereas the healthcare workers at the front lines are driven by patient care and actually trying to help people. And so there's a very big misalignment of values, profits versus patients,
Yeah.
that drives a lot of that, right?
And that is so true. It's so true. And I think that's why we are even connected because my primary market seems to be healthcare workers. So it's fascinating. And so with that statement, even when I was in the insurance industry, there's a sliding scale based on commission. You can, I don't know if it's like this anymore, but you could charge a certain amount and take less commission or charge a greater amount and take a greater commission. And I never was comfortable with that. Well, I used to piss off people around me selling the price because they said you're trying to lowball me. And I'm like, no, I'm not trying to lowball you. I genuinely want to serve. And I believe in service over profit. Like, I'm going to be successful. Watch me. But I don't need to gouge. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, and that's why there's this fine line with healthcare, right? It's got a great mission. Thank goodness for it. But we can get over greedy. We can, even when they start saying, okay, you got to see patients every 15 minutes. Well, I'm going to take 25 minutes with my patient. Screw you. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like, and then the next thing you know, you're pissing off the old model, right? So it's a fascinating animal, and it's just finding that sweet spot of being in alignment with yourself and being in alignment with your profession. We can't all walk away and go make cocktails at some bar, bar in the Bahamas. I mean, we're here to serve in industries that are going to challenge us to the nth degree. But how do we stand in our light of truth or stand in our authenticity, stand in our values, and navigate this with grace and ease is the key, I think.
No, I absolutely agree. So I think the first step is obviously recognition of the problem, right? And when I'm talking specifically about burnout, I'm talking about the individual saying, wow, I actually have a problem. And then you can start to figure
Right.
out, well, what is the problem, where it's coming from? But how do you get people to recognize that they have a problem? And the reason I ask is, I mean, I've come across so many people, obviously in my healthcare journey, who, as an outsider, as a coach, I can look at them and say, I know you are burned out. You have a huge problem that I know I could help you with, but that person doesn't know they have a problem. So how can we break through to that? How can we get people to open their eyes and recognize that they actually have a problem? And not only that, that there is a better solution out there. There is a better life, right? There is something else that can be done to make life better for them.
Yeah, that has always been. So I've been in this arena now for 18 years, and I've really noticed uh, striving versus allowing. Okay, so we can want something for someone. You can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make them drink. So the whole thing is it's putting out there. So, like for instance, my slogan is create a life by design that you design, not one of default. And you put your messaging out there of what you are here offering. And I truly believe you will attract your clientele. You have to put forth the effort, you have to market, you have to put it out there. But again, we can't force people. I do believe so after 18 years, I do believe at this moment and juncture in time, because of COVID, there is this shift happening, this great awakening, if you will. People are starting to really recognize their mental well-being is important. Uh, but I do find that that is a very challenging thing. That you can want you can want it for someone, but you cannot create it for someone. I tell people all the time, you can't become sick enough to make that person well.
Yeah, it's true. It's sort of similar to what we're talking with addicts a lot, which I have some personal experience in that space, and I'm not sure that I fully agree with it. But everybody always says an addict has to reach rock bottom before they turn things around. In my mind, that I don't think that has to be the case. I think you can make that turnaround
Right.
sooner, as long as you recognize that
Mm-hmm.
there is a better option out there. The problem is, how do you get
Yeah,
people to see that? That's the
I
part that
know.
I still struggle with a lot of times, is how do you get people to recognize that there is a better path for them available? And maybe that doesn't even relate to
Yeah.
burnout, right? That relates really to anything in life. There's always going to be a better
Anything.
option
Oh,
available. You just have to
exactly.
recognize
Exactly.
that it's out there, and then not just
Right.
recognize that it's out there, but then want it for yourself.
Want it. It takes a great deal of courage, right? It does take courage to step on any kind of path that we're talking about. And unfortunately, suffering has to somewhat cope. I don't think you have to go all the way to the bottom. I didn't go to the bottom. I recognized that I was creating um, dis-ease in my body, disharmony. I had health issues. They called it adrenal fatigue. They had, yes, and then it affected my sleep and it affected all this stuff. And I started saying, whoa, time out. You can't fix me. I have to fix me, right? So you're not, it's very fascinating. You just have to keep hoping that by us being present, because it takes a lot of courage even to do what we do, right? To step into our authenticity, blaze a new trail. I tell people all the time, my approach is cutting edge and innovative. How much are you willing to step on this path with me? Because I have a proven methodology that's going to help you. And then like I talked to somebody this weekend and you could feel the hesitation. And that person actually owned it and said, I'm afraid. Right? When they turn around and say, I'm afraid, I'm like, you have to be courageous. And one thing about hiring a coach is I'm holding your hand. I'm here. You can try to do this self-help stuff and it might take you 18 months. I'm going to cut back down to, 6 months. So again, how measuring your pain point are you at? Where am I greeting you? Because
There.
the pain has to be there, unfortunately. That gnawing or that stirring, because really also what I'm going for is those people that really do want to create a life. They want to get off the hamster wheel and they feel like they've been on it and they keep seeing the patterns in their life and they're ready to change something. And that's really the key piece. And some people will be ready and some people won't. But hopefully, they continue to follow you. And then you've got to greet them where they are.
Yeah. No, that's so true, and, it just circling back to one thing you said that I absolutely agree with. I try to doing all of this on my own in the beginning, and it wasn't until
Yeah.
I had found the right coach for me that my personal growth really accelerated. I mean, what I did in 4 months as working with a coach, I wasn't able to do in 4 years on my own. So
No.
it's very true that having the right coach by your side is important, because you do need that courage. And like you said, there's some suffering involved. Life is painful, right? That's why we exist. I've always said in medicine, for example, like everybody comes to the hospital once narcotics. I'm like, look, I can't take all of your pain away, because if I did, you would be dead. That's the only way you can make pain completely go away. So you have to accept the
Right.
fact that life exists only because of pain. So some pain is acceptable, and you just have to work
Right.
with that, right? In order, let that be your motivation for something better. But I'm kind of curious now for you in how you work with clients, the who are you question, right? How do you help people find out who that is, right? So let's say we have somebody who recognizes they're burned out, their values are misaligned, and we could talk about the worst burnout as well at some point. But um,
Yeah.
and they're like, you know what, I do want something different for myself, but to be honest with you, I don't even know where I'm starting from. Who am I? How do you go about helping people with that?
Well, in my trademark pathway to inner peace, it is based on four pillars. They are recognize, release, to rewire, to radiate your best self. So I take, I don't, it's not a cookie cutter approach. It's very much geared toward what they want to achieve, the goals they have in mind. But it's a very structured approach because I utilize the teachings of four doctors that were very influential in my own personal practice, because everything I'm teaching, I personally use to evolve. And they are Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, the founding father of mindful-based stress reduction here in the United States, MBSR. So very mindfulness guru, if you will. Dr. Joe Dispenza, he's famous for a book called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, How to Lose Your Mind and Create a New One. Dr. David Hawkins, Power versus Force. So he's all talking about how every emotion has a vibration. So I bring into my cutting edge and innovative approach energy. Everything is energy, like Einstein says. So, and I'm a master teacher of Reiki. So energy is very much a part of my life. Uh, and then the last one is Dr. David, let's see, Dr. Wayne Dyer. And everybody's familiar with him. And the most influential part of him is his spiritual practice and the law of attraction, or how do we manifest. So, really, again, creating a life by design, I'm going to teach them how to create a life by design. But I take them through a very structured program, and I use mindfulness because it's got the science behind it to change the gray matter of the prefrontal cortex so they become more responsive to life instead of reactive, which is that amygdala. So we know there's tons of studies that mindfulness is superb for calming, activating the parasympathetic, calming the sympathetic, really making and changing the brain. And neuroscience, which is Dr. Joe Dispenza, really talks about how to change those straps that you have. How do you do that? So it's a very methodical practice that I take them through. And you made a very interesting thing about the suffering. I want to say something that I find, the pain. Pain is inevitable, like you said. It's only amplified to suffering. So this 4R method, I'm really teaching people how to drop resistance that creates the suffering. And it's not rocket science. It's not complicated. It's just no one ever taught us this. We have to, figure this stuff out on our own. But it begins by that awareness. And then you're taking it through. How does this serve me? Like I use the statement, how does this feel to me? If it doesn't feel good, how do I release it? How do I choose? That's like in your laser, your acronym, resilience is key. You have to know how to be resilient. And the rewiring process is a necessity. You're right. Like I said, I recognize when she kicks in, the old I mean, she's not that old patterning is not going to not show up. I mean, that being the observer and noticing what's going to pull us in, then going, I'm not taking the bait. I got a new way of being. And that's like, reclaiming that radiant self and that's why I named my business Awaken with Light, because I'm really teaching people to come back to that light, to that authentic truth of who we are. Not what society expects, not what all this stuff expects, not being pulled like a dummy doll. How do I get back and get centered?
I really like what you said there about pain being amplified to the point of suffering. That's a great
Yes.
perspective that I need to think about some more, and I think I'm going to incorporate into some of my own language. I really like that perspective. Is pain is normal. It's when it becomes suffering that it's probably too amplified. So I like that a lot. And even talking about pain and mindfulness, for example, it two things you can look at that. One is the placebo effect. We know about that in medicine, and it works, right? It works a tremendous number of times. So
Yes.
why does it work? Well, it's because
Yes.
your brain has such an influence on everything that you perceive, that even taking a placebo pill will have an effect on you because your brain has the perception that you're doing something good for your body, and that's the same thing here when we talk about the pain and suffering and trying to reduce that and turning your life around. A lot of that, when we talk about mindfulness practice, is similar to the placebo effect in that we're just telling your brain something different, and your brain perceives that, right? Because your brain really all it's doing is taking all these inputs, and then it's creating an output, right? It's creating some feeling, an emotion, it's creating some thought patterns, but it's all based on certain inputs. So if you change the input, you could change the output, because your brain in the middle is, on the one hand,
Absolutely.
very smart and also very dumb at the same time. So that's awesome.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
right.
It
So
is.
knowing all
And
that,
I say the same kind of thing. Yeah, it's like perception. That's why I try to get people dialed in. We never thought to look at our emotions. We're kind of afraid of our emotions. And emotions they don't define. And mindfulness is very good at teaching you to be the observer of the present moment with curiosity and non-judgment. So you really get that anchored in and so that you can observe and not take yourself so seriously. Like
yeah,
notice the emotion that's generating the thought that's creating that perception, like you were just talking about. And when I was training at University of Chicago, mindful leadership, we were on this Zoom call. And she said, okay, everybody close your eyes. And I want you to imagine a lemon. And I want you to cut the lemon. And she was describing this lemon. And notice how it feels on the outside. And then watch this juice run out of it. And then kind of look at it. And now it's cut in two. Look at it again. Cut it again. And okay, now take that piece of lemon and put it in your mouth. Now, this is all, you're just imagining this in your brain. And the next thing she goes, okay, how many people have saliva in their mouth? Like even right now, describing it to you, I feel the saliva in my mouth, right? That's the whole thing. So when we begin to harness that power, for lack of a better term, that's when you really get empowered. You know
yes,
how. Because wow, I did that all from just imagining a freaking lemon. Like imagine what I can do.
right. Absolutely. That's a powerful example right there. And you're right. I did have that sour taste in my mouth, and I felt the saliva coming on. So yeah, no, but that's the power of the mind, right? And that's what we as coaches are
Right.
really trying to massage and fine tune and unlock for other people so they can truly benefit from their own brain power, their own mindfulness, and maximize their potential in life. So who are the people that you like to work with? Anybody listening to this, who's like, wow, Nancy sounds like a really cool person. How do I work with her? Who is your ideal client?
So, probably the ones that gravitate to me are those that are in rapid fire, high stress environments, which is healthcare, IT. They tend to be the ones that pharma, biopharma, those kind of, biotech, because they're in this rapid fire, high stress environment. I think that's the primary person that's kind of my sweet spot. I'm very passionate about those that lead. So I do believe we are a ripple effect. And I love really dialing into this with leaders so they can have a profound impact on those around them. Employee engagement, there's a stat out there, I think it's like 40 some odd percent believe that their productivity and their performance is directly related to their leaders' behavior. So if you get dialed in to those that have an impact on others, you can help the masses. So, and it's all about, what I'm doing. Yes, I'm great for the person who's got burnout, who's got high levels of stress, but also those that want to peak perform, because our mind wanders 50% of the day waking time. If you start to implement some of the things that I have in place, you'll start to gain back your focus and concentration, your productivity. We call it an equanimous state of being. You won't be drawn in so much to everything around you. I did a video this morning, a quick little thing that we're connected to everything, but ideally we want to be attached to nothing. Well, that's a huge lofty, people might not get it, right? But what I'm trying to say is we're interconnected with everything around us. So how do we get, dialed into that, but be the observer? And that's where the true, high performer, peak performer, visionary leader, can really shine. And that's what I'm passionate about.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. So, coming back to that topic of burnout, right? So, someone
Yeah.
is in a job, whether that's healthcare, biotech, IT, any of those high stress situations, and maybe they're not aware of their burnout. What are some of
Yes.
the symptoms? Like, what are they feeling? What are they going through? What are their emotions that they should be aware of to know? Well, actually, maybe this is burnout, or maybe I do have a problem. Like, what are they
Yep.
going through that should bring
Absolutely.
them to you?
Sure. Insomnia, brain fog, feeling like they're not as productive as they used to be, lack of passion and purpose. Yeah, I'm feeling like this used to light my fire. I'm really, something I'm struggling. Um, I think those are some of the highest things that I see. Sleep is a powerful thing, man. When you start messing with your sleep ability, that's a big red flag. Also, if you've got chronic pain that just showed up at, and you're thinking, man, I'm only 40 and I feel like I'm 60. I mean, those kind of things. So you start, I think the body is always speaking. Can you hear it? And are you allowing to hear it? Because our emotions and all this is, as a Reiki master and teacher, I'm a real proponent of, mental and emotional trauma on a cellular level. And you don't have to be war vets to have that trauma. Trauma is just everyday living. If you're not in alignment with everything, you're living a life like a zombie from The Walking Dead. This is creating misalignment within.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that perspective. Your body is always speaking. Are you listening? I think that is so powerful
Yes.
because that introspection is something that we're not taught, right? Nobody teaches us these things. We have to figure
Mm-mm.
that out on our own.
No.
But that's really a good way of putting it, right? Your body's always speaking. Are you listening? And then if you're listening, are you understanding what your body's trying to say, right? And that I think that's definitely
Exactly.
where working with the right coach can help unlock so many secrets in your life. On the topic of trauma,
Yes.
I just want to go on a quick side note here. I
Sure.
think some of that is very subjective as well for the person.
Mhm.
And it's something
Mhm.
that, yeah, if you look at the DSM and you look at post traumatic stress disorder, there's certain very defined criteria you have to go through for a true psychological diagnosis of the problem. But I was seeing my therapist earlier this week, and she asked me if I had any history of trauma, and I said, well, if you look at my life and the things I've gone through as a trauma search, right? I mean, I cannot tell you how many people have died by these hands. Most people would
Right.
say, well, holy crap, that is terrible, right? And most people probably would be traumatized, if you will, in some way, shape, or
Right.
form from all these events that I've been involved with. On the other hand, I look at it as well. That was my job. That's what I was doing. Did I fully process any of the things that were happening? Absolutely not. You never had any time to really debrief in those moments in trauma surgery. But would I call myself traumatized as a result? No, I mean, it doesn't keep me awake at night. I don't have nightmares. Do I still go back to some of those moments every once in a while to try to continue processing them? Yeah, absolutely. But I think that's normal. I think that's what I should be doing versus avoiding them, which is what I had been doing for so long in
Right.
trauma surgery, which is also why I had to leave it, because it was on the one hand the best job I ever had, and also the worst job, because it
Sure
absolutely
thing.
destroyed me physically, mentally, and emotionally, because I never had any time to process these things, to debrief, to take care of myself. So that's a big thing. I know trauma gets thrown a lot, and there's some stigma associated with it, and a lot of the lay culture has probably not a terrific understanding of what it really means. But at the same
Right.
time, the symptoms and the feelings and emotions that are tied to it are also very subjective. So, anyways, that's just my little site right here. What's a
I love
normal
that.
yeah, just we had a great conversation on I think it was just Friday, I think Friday. My anybody who works with you now. That's sorry. I had to get back to my train of thought. So how long is your
Sure.
usual client engagement? Like how long do clients usually work with you to get to where they want to be? I know it's a broad broad question. I know everybody comes at it with from a different beginning, and they have a different goal that they're trying to set to. But like just to give people a sense for how long it takes to work with a coach to get to where you want to go.
Well, I've broken my program down into basically 3-month increments because what I'm really specialize in tailoring it to fit that individual. And I build relationships. So everything that I do is very value based. It's results driven. So, like you just said, it's very much where are we? And we are constantly measuring if we're achieving what you set out. And also, you may set out with one, you might have set out with one set of goals and then all of a sudden identify other goals that you want, things you wanted to achieve. But I would say the sweet spot of knowing that, 3 months, I'm definitely shifting your mindset. And that's where I want to see that buy-in, because at the beginning, sometimes people are apprehensive, right? They're trusting in me. They feel like, I'm high integrity. Okay, I believe what you're saying, but I really don't know if you're going to achieve this for me. Uh, but so that 3 months, I get the buy-in, if you will. And then it's typically another 3 months of this cadence of really hands-on coaching. Then I typically move into a maintenance mode. People love accountability partners, especially in this. And then we might spread it out a little bit further, monthly, depending on that individual. So that'll give you a nice generalization. But again, it depends on who I'm working with and what we want to achieve. And then we might be establishing new goals and an application to it as the process continues. And each session is about an hour in length. It's by Zoom typically. I do have a brick and mortar practice here and outside of Philadelphia and Westchester, Pennsylvania. But typically, I would say the majority is my Zoom because I cover all over the world. Um, and so that's about it. And that 3 month period, I have a 7 session package that I utilize. And one thing I want the audience to understand, because I think this is the misconception of when we start doing this work on the brain and changing our mindset, that I have to sit for meditation for 30 minutes at a time. This is a misnomer. I don't, mindfulness, I think it's only meditation. It's not. There is mindfully living. So oh, I can't, she's all about meditation. I can't meditate. So I get that all the time. But what's fascinating about working with me is that I'm going to teach you how to reflect what we're talking about and 10-minute increments, and then don't crave the being, just being. You can call it meditation, you can call it whatever you want, but I just want you to sit and we adapt it to your process. And I have several coaching, they love their gratitude journals in the morning, or they love their prayer time. How do you incorporate just be? So, really want to clear that up because people think it's all about, chanting a hymn or, I'm reading people right where they are. Um, I'm a busy mind. look at me. I'm the Energizer Bunny on steroids, for God's sakes. I'm not sitting here like a monk. That's not happening. Now, I'm not knocking that. That's great. If you've got a practice that you can do that, more power to you. But you can achieve a lot by teaching people just to take what I call a mindful pause, take that moment of choice, take some breaths. It doesn't need to be a rapid fire. It doesn't need to be. There are times that you can take a breath and make a choice. Now, when you are in a surgical situation, maybe not. Oh, let me go sit over here and take a breath. No,
Yeah.
not happening. But the average Joe doesn't have that happening. There, there is okay to say, you know what? Let me get back to you. I'm going to think about this one. Or, taking that pause. You don't have to fill it with dead space. You don't have to, it's very important just teaching people those concepts.
I agree. And I think the important part, I think that you mentioned here, that is something that I have definitely come to realize through my own coaching experience, as well as the podcast here, is I think if you're working with a person who calls themselves a coach and there is a one size fits all approach that you have to do this module this week and that module next week, that person very likely is not a true coach. I like the fact that you have sort of the skeleton outline of where it is that you're trying to go, but you still personalize it to every client. And I think that's the important piece because we are all unique and different. We may have there similarities in the challenges we face in life, but the situations are still very unique and specific to each and every one of us. And so, really personalizing that program to each person, I think is really
Exactly.
the the power. That's really what a good coach should do. And then the other thing, just on a little side note there as well, I like the 3 month increments, for the simple reason that depending on which study you look at, the new neural pathways in your brain take anywhere from 30 days to 180 days to form. Sweet spot seems to be around 120 days. But there's a broad range depending on which study you read. So the 3 months mark really gets you from where you are today to having new neural pathways, at that 90, 120-day mark. So that really makes perfect sense from going back to the science, right? From a scientific standpoint,
Yeah.
why you do 3 months increments. And I've been through coaching programs, even myself, that have 6 to 8 week programs. And again, they're just these cookie cutter approaches and it
Right.
just doesn't work that way. And I think that's important for anyone to recognize out there because the coaching industry is largely unregulated, and to really find the right coach means you have to find someone that resonates with you, that you can vibe with, that also is going to personally tailor their system to your unique and specific situation. So that's awesome. I want to turn the conversation a little bit more on you now, and not just what you do. These questions come out of my Simple Networking Toolbook, which is a book I wrote last year that redefines networking. It does all the networking for you, as a matter of fact. So these questions about who people are, not just what they do, similar to what I do on the podcast. So let me ask you some questions out of the book to get a better feeling for who Nancy is. The first question is
Absolutely.
comes really from the idea that you mentioned Connecticut before, and now you're in Pennsylvania, obviously on the East Coast. But what is a place you haven't been to yet that you really want to visit?
Oh, that's perfect. I I have not spent any time. So not on vacation. My son was at the Air Force Academy in Colorado, Colorado Springs. I went out there several times for parent weekends and all this kind of thing. And I always said I wanted to go out and spend more time in the Colorado Rockies. I have a sister out there. I go out periodically and hike with her. I'm a big outdoorsman. I love to hike. Um, and I just think Colorado is just one of the most beautiful states. I'd love to get to know it more. Another state, Utah. I went to the Tetons and Yellowstone, but now I want to try that Utah part and the Montana part. So maybe going to like a dude ranch would be really, so those kind of things I've never done and experienced. Uh, so I'd love to spend more time out there.
That's so cool. I was in the Air Force. I never made it out to the academy, but I agree with Colorado. I only spent like 2 nights in Denver for a board review course back during my surgical training. But from what I saw, I was kind of hooked. And if it wasn't for my kids being here in Ohio, I would be anywhere but here, and I would probably be also out west, Colorado, Phoenix. I don't know, somewhere not here.
Yeah,
Just looking at all these
yeah.
different places. That's beautiful. Um, my next question then is, we've had this heat wave. It's coming your way. Obviously, Colorado is a bit of a different climate than Philadelphia. So, would you rather take a hot bath on a cold day or a cold shower on a hot day?
I'd rather take a hot bath on a cold day. I love hot tubs in the winter. I mean, you cannot beat it. But I will say the heat doesn't bother me. So I did not stay, but I grew up in Atlanta. Talk about landlocked, humidity, and it's hot. So you can take the southern, you can take her out of the south, but you can't take the southern out of her. So she's there. Put me on a beach in Florida, high humidity. I'm golden. So I do like my heat, and I'm okay with it. I prefer heat over cold. But out of those two, you won't find me even on a hot day taking a cold shower. That
Right.
just does not that just does not resonate with me.
That's fair. That's so awesome. All right, my next question is the weirdest question I've ever asked, and that's why I keep asking it because it's just so much fun. Similar to the bath versus shower situation, would you rather have a cat that barks or a dog that meows?
Yeah, I'd rather have a cat that barks. Um, I'm a cat girl. I've had dogs and cats, but there's something about a cat. That cat really resonates. Their personality. Like get a little loving when I want, and I want my space when I want my space. That's me in a nutshell as well, and so I relate to a cat. Um, and I think the barking noise, though, I guess the only thing is that might be a bit annoying because that's the only thing but my dogs have never been rapid. I mean, they bark when they needed to, but I've never had the one that yelps all the time. Because he would only bark if there was somebody at the door or something like that. So, but that'd be too weird to look at this massive, like I had golden retriever, yep, and have him meowing. That just is like,
Right? That's exactly right.
this big old, and I don't know. That just doesn't. I can't do it.
I know, like I said, it's a weird question, but I think it's so much fun. The other theme of the show is, of course, that every guest gets to ask the next guest a question, not knowing who that person is, what they do, or what we're even going to be talking about. So this next question was left to you by Brian Hayes, who's a commercial real estate broker in Texas, and he essentially wants to know there are two kinds of people in this world. The ones that have thousands of unread emails in their inbox, and the ones that have zero. Which one are you?
Zero. I read and clear that now. That's a no-brainer for me. That just represents clutter to me. So I
Yes.
keep that down to I'd be lying like right now. We come off of a weekend. It's a Monday. I looked over there and there's 10. But I will, read those before the day, this evening or something. I will keep that. I won't allow that 10 to get higher. So, but I took time off over the weekend and really spent time with my family. So there's a little bit in there. But yeah, I've seen, I think my husband's actually the hundreds of that kind of person.
Yeah, I
It's
agree. I
like,
agree with the clutter. I
I
definitely enjoy
love
my.
that.
I definitely enjoy my
That's a
inbox
great.
zero. Yeah, right.
Mhm.
All right. Well, it's your turn to pay it forward. What question would you like to ask the next guest, not knowing who that person is, what they do, or what the
Mm.
conversation will even bring about?
If you were given a block of time to just be with yourself, would you spend it scrolling through a social media? Would you spend it reading a book? And if neither of those, what would it be? What would you be doing?
All right. I love that question. I think that's a great question. That's awesome. Well, Nancy, this has been fantastic. How can people reach out to you? How can they connect with you if they want to work with you?
My probably the one that I play in the most is LinkedIn. That's my social media sandbox, if you will. So again, Nancy Gentle Boudrie there at LinkedIn. My website is awakenwithlight.com. And I have an awesome ebook that is free that you can get 3 of my favorite tools and techniques to navigate stress and overwhelm. So feel free to over there and take advantage of that free 3, you know, tools to navigate stress and overwhelm.
That's awesome. I'll make sure all those links are in the description below so anybody can click on them and
Oh
connect
yeah.
with you
Oh,
more
and
readily and
also I have a
easily.
YouTube channel too. Yeah, yeah, and then YouTube. I forgot about that. I got a huge following over there. Feel free to see me there at Waking with Light at YouTube. I have
Awesome.
lots of long videos, short videos, guided meditations, all kinds of things.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I'll make sure all those links are below so anybody listening in, tuning in can click on it and get taken right over to you. Any final words from you to the world?
Gosh, just keep shining bright, really dialing in and evolving. We are always growing, we are always evolving. Don't stand still, keep moving faithfully forward through life.
I love that. I agree. Keep moving forward. I actually have to on my vision board. I've written down on there. I will not stop. So I
Yeah,
see that every day. So that's awesome. Thank you for doing this.
awesome.
Thank you for being here. This has been a lovely conversation. I really enjoyed where we took this. So thank you again for being here today. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
All right. I really hope you enjoyed that. The questions that I asked towards the end are from my new book, The S.I.M.P.L.E Networking Tool. It's a great book that redefines how we network. It's all about who someone is and not what they are. So if you want to get your own book, it's available on Amazon. If you want to learn more, there's videos about it here on YouTube. So you can check out this amazing new social science experiment. I'm so excited for it. If you do get a book and you do start your own, please let me know how it goes and what your experience is like. I'm working on the second edition and I want to make it the best one yet. So be sure to tag me, let me know how it goes. Thanks for watching.